Hello everyone. Where the fuck is my camera? I swear to God, I hate OBS so much. Come on, man. It works. Wonderful. All right. Every damn time I stream. Every damn time. Is it this janky on Windows? Is it? It's probably not this janky on Windows. Well, I'm gonna blame Linux, and just in case, I'm gonna blame Microsoft for this one. This might be the only piece of software in which they are not involved. But I'm blaming them anyway. Fuck you, Microsoft. Google, go fuck yourself too, honestly. The hell? Get out of here. For good measure. Anyone else? AI, fuck you too. Yeah, it's your fault. Everything's your fault nowadays. Alright. Feels weird to start a Saturday stream at 8:30, but I had a vibe coding with Rust course that I've been taking at the local university. So I had to attend that. It's a university course, yes. I'll be a PhD. A pretty huge dork for taking that course. Alright. And Jester's awake. A rare sight. Don't look at me like that. He's side-eyeing me pretty bad right now. What's up, Lisiado? Alright. So yeah, feels weird to stream on a Saturday night. Besides when I used to, like, sometimes also stream on Saturday night and afternoon. But I don't do that anymore. Also, I feel like I've been sick for about 2 months, so that's great. Alright. Alright, I have my mouse on my laptop over YouTube, which means a video was playing without me watching it. The modern internet is great. I love when that happens. This counts as watching a video. Oops. Oh, I don't have a... Right. I don't have a history. I don't have anything to watch. This counts as watching a video, apparently. Anyway. Alright, let me start doing something. Here's the deal. Yesterday, I redesigned my operating system's boot initialization sequence, not really boot sequence. That doesn't really make much sense. Although I did change that a little bit, but that was not that interesting. It happened off stream. I just moved a few of these modules around, so that the first thing that gets loaded is the console, so we can have printing, and then the disk, so we can read stuff from there, and it can help us customize the system. Right, but what I actually did yesterday was did I call it boot process? Yes, boot process. I did a little state machine that handles... is the drawing that I did for it still here, by the way? No, it isn't. I don't think it is. That just handles what happens when the system has booted and, you know, we give control to the user. So, root state, we can have a login, which right now is just a very secret password that is stored in plain text inside of a config file, which I just leaked. That is if we use the login system. If we don't, we go straight into userland, which can be either the desktop, as it always was, or a terminal. because another thing that I introduced is headless mode. Kind of. I'm working on it, and today I need to work on it a little bit more. Alright, but just to finish looking at the logic of this damn thing, root goes either to the login or straight to userland if we don't have a login. That doesn't feel very correct, because it isn't going through the screensaver, so. Yeah, change that. Oh, it's hot as hell in here. Oh my god. Alright. So, yeah, it either goes through the login, through the screensaver, which is just the boot logo that used to always show up, or straight into the desktop. Or wherever, really. If it goes through login, it then also goes to either the screensaver or straight to userland, which is the terminal, if we're in headless mode. And the screensaver just goes to userland. Whereas when we're in userland, we just, if for whatever reason we log out or lock down the system or something, we just go back to the root state, which is just going to go do this entire thing again. It's going to take us back to login or to the screensaver or back to userland. Technically, that is a possibility and not a very nice one, because the only way that this can happen is with a crash right now. Won't always be the case, but right now it is, so kind of sucks. Alright. I need to point that fan at me. I don't care about allergies. I'm gonna die. Okay, that's better. So, okay, if I'm not mistaken, I did set up my system to be in headless mode, which is supposed to be no UI, no graphics at all. But, because I'm still building it, it does use graphics. Yeah, headless. And just in case, doesn't use windowing. Headless mode doesn't use windows because it's headless. It shouldn't. How can it use windows when there's no graphics? But, so yeah, it's a little bit redundant, but the point is it doesn't use windows. It boots straight to a terminal. Right, it actually asks you to log in. Then it boots straight into the terminal, and I can't type or do anything here because the input was coming from the QEMU window. That's not correct. The input should come from UART, which means from the console itself. After that, we should be okay with just getting rid of the visuals entirely, which, by the way, glitch a little bit because we're in headless mode, but we have graphics. That's not supposed to happen, so few glitches are to be expected here. But, yeah, ideally, by the end of today, I'm going to be able to use the system just from the terminal. Still booting through QEMU, but it will not show anything. It'll just have an empty window. Or actually, I think QEMU can have, optionally, its own console. I guess it depends. You have to build it with that. Mine doesn't have it, I think, but it does normally have those options. Just this one doesn't. Alright. Alright, so I'm about to modify some code that I feel like I haven't modified since I wrote this. No, okay, I have. But it's some old code that has not been touched in a long time. That's UART. And actually, we only have a .h file in here, because the real implementation is inside of modules divided by platform. I'm pretty sure it's in common. Yeah, all the code for UART is here. All right. And UART, these are some functions to print UART. This is what's actually printing. And this is configuration, which simply maps the region of memory that UART uses so that it's available to us. Then it, I believe, disables UART so we can reset it properly, just in case it was already set up but wrong. Just in case, we're just gonna reset it. Then we set the iBird and the fBird to 40, to 1 and 40, which it's like a fractional and integer parts of a bird. I forgot what the BRD stands for. Baud rate? You know what? Let's ask the OSDev wiki. A website I haven't visited in months. I don't expect it to be useful. That's why I haven't visited in months, but yeah. It's down every other day. So that's very nice of them. Alright. Here we go. That was the mirror that's always down. This is not always down. Alright, so you should have exception on UART, pretty sure. Pretty much every device ever has this thing, so I highly doubt that we're gonna have issues with this. It's essentially a serial communication. I use it to output to the terminal. Well, I use it to output to this console, but you can actually use it to take input as well. And to transmit any kind of data, really. It doesn't even have to be just logs. It can be any kind of data. Though I don't think I want to use it for that, especially since I have networking. I don't necessarily need this. But maybe. Anyway. The OSDev wiki really is useless. Oh my god. It has a lot of information about how it works. Could you maybe give me some information about how I can work with it? And keep in mind, this code is... Maybe the actual code changes. The values of these are going to change every time. Because these are registers. But the overall logic is always the same, so could you maybe explain it a little bit? Is that something the OSDev wiki could maybe do? Have a little bit of documentation for operating system developers? Am I asking for too much? Clearly. They're giving me the history of it. But I'm assuming I have to go into one of the... No, that goes to Wikipedia. This goes to Wikipedia. This goes to Wikipedia. Goes to Wikipedia. Wikipedia. You have a page on what QEMU is. Alright, here it is. Serial ports. Alright, so I guess this is what I want. Yeah, so I can remember what this code is even supposed to be doing. I just remember that I set it to this rate of transmission, and this is just helpers for that in a way, kind of. Because this rate is actually not being used anywhere. This kind of gets calculated to this, if I'm not mistaken. And then you configure UART to be first in, first out. 8-bit word length. So each section of data that I'm going to send you is going to be 8 bits. So this is the configuration that I'm doing on what the output is going to look like. Then I am enabling UART, enabling transmission, and enabling reception. So technically, I don't think I need to change any configuration. I think UART is already configured to both receive and transmit data. I'm just not actually doing that. I'm sending data, but I'm not receiving data. Yeah. All right. Right. The logic then for...
Greetings.
Hello, Hago. The logic for actually writing to UART is you write to the UART FR. Oh my god, now the summer makes me so miserable, I swear to god. Now that I have the fan blowing in my face, it's annoying. But if I don't, I literally am boiling alive. And then one thing I have to agree with the Americans. First, one and only thing. We don't have enough AC. We need more AC in Europe. It sucks not to have it. Although this is the first apartment I've lived in that doesn't have AC. But still, it doesn't have AC, and it fucking sucks. Also, Madrid, would be nice if you maybe remembered that it's summer and you turned on the AC in public transport. But that's a different story. You have AC, you just don't use it. But yeah, anyway, not sure what this register is supposed to stand for, FR. But yeah, we're supposed to look at this register. Waiting. This should be like a volatile. Can I make a while volatile? No. No, but this is volatile, so we're good. Alright, I think we're good. Yeah, we're just expecting a value to change because transmission rates and all that stuff. It's a very simple way of synchronizing. Just wait until we're ready to transmit the next 8 bits of data, and then transmit the next 8 bits of data, even though we're doing a write 32. So we're writing 32 bits, but really we're only writing 8 bits because the register is 32 bits. I guess that makes sense. Does that mean that there's technically more than 8-bit length? Not sure what this stands for, so it would be nice to know. Right now I'm going to be setting up UART input, so serial port input to my system so I can have it running in headless mode and receiving input from the keyboard. But I'm actually just starting by remembering what the code does in the first place, because it's been a long time. Alright, I wanted to look at the LCRH. Now, of course, it doesn't have a reference to that. So let me just Google that. Alright. An in-depth explanation that looks like this isn't particularly in-depth, but sure. See, the thing is my code used to look like this. Just random numbers. But then I went and labeled everything like this. I was just looking at what other word lengths could I have besides 8 bits. Frankly, I don't think it can get higher than 8 bits because this is 1 1. And I don't think it's 3 bits total to write this. So probably 8 bits, 4 bits, or a single bit, or 2 bits would stand for 00011011. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's not like I'm going to change the word length, so we're good. But like, we're writing 8 bits maximum into a 32-bit register. So that feels a little weird, but I guess it makes sense. Because it is a register that's 32 bits. I guess that's fine. Alright, so that's... that... that is reading from... No, not reading. That is transmitting through UART. But now what I want to do is read from UART. So if I'm not mistaken, I have a DTB here for this thing. That is a... what are these called? Device tree blobs. For my system. That should tell me the interrupts that are used. Because I will need... Okay, so the thing is, when data is received from UART, I will receive an interrupt. That interrupt is going to tell me that there's new data. I'm going to go and read it. And I'm going to process that data. And I never remember how to read these things. But are we talking about interrupt 4? Interrupt 1? Interrupt... how are you supposed to read these things genuinely? 0, 1, 4. I don't think there is an interrupt 0. Alright, how about I look at one that I do know how it works, such as... IRQ. No, wait, what? That is interrupt. Timer, okay, so 30 and 27 are for timers. It uses these this is undecipherable to me. A timer uses interrupt 30 and 27. And these are the interrupts that are listed for the timer. Which one of these is supposed to be 30 or 27? None of these numbers come even close to those two values. 30 is something like 0x1 E. That's not what I was expecting. MMIO? That is a vertio interrupt. Hold on a second, what? How am I supposed to interpret this value? What am I supposed to do with this value? I know each of these has a specific meaning, but I don't remember what that meaning is. But you cannot be telling me that interrupt 30 is mapped to vertio MMIO because it's actually mapped to IRQ timer. There's another one, 27, which of course maps to something like C if I'm not mistaken. It also shows us vertio MMIO. So I guess it is that one. Right? Because... No, I got it wrong. It's one... Still also maps to that, according to this. from what I'm reading, these are interrupts for VirtIO MMIO that I'm actually using as timers. Because clearly I'm reading it wrong. But that is the only way that I can think of reading this shit. Does the OSDev wiki have a section on DTBs? It has a link to the Raspberry Pi that actually does explain it. Alright. Cell property. Okay, so this is the format that it was using. That's all the information we have on it. Very useful. You know what? I kind of hate working with technology. Sometimes. But pays the bills. So it sucks. Okay. See, the thing is, every time I've had to work with the this fuck-ass format and try to understand what it's telling me, and it's straight up lying to my face a lot of the times, I kind of ended up doing something like this. Code has changed a little bit since I did it, but a little something like this. Just enable all IRQs and see which one responds to what I'm trying to do. If I'm not mistaken, it will say received unknown interrupt and tell me which line triggered it. So that should give me an answer as to what's happening. Not really. At least, not like that. Oh, this is fucking great. Alright, let me look if the Raspberry Pi has maybe something a little bit more helpful. So Raspberry Pi has 2 serial UART ports. This is the Raspberry Pi 4. Has 2? Okay, if you say so. I guess it has 2. 5? Not sure what that's about. Anyway. Yeah, it goes through GPIO. That's okay. Do you have any information on interrupts whatsoever? I don't think I have to poll. I think it does use... Okay, hold on. There are 11 maskable interrupts generated within the UART. Okay, so there is interrupt. I wasn't wrong about that. I think I have seen people using it before. You can enable or disable the individual interrupts by changing the mask bit in the UART IMSC register. Setting the appropriate mask bit high enables the interrupt. Okay, so I have to set it to a 1. And Is it me or are you not explaining what they are? Okay, each of them has their own section. Alright, so we got the UARM center, which is the modem status interrupt is asserted if any of the modem status lines, such as these, I'm not reading all that, changes. If the FIFO are enabled and the receiver FIFO reaches the program trigger level, did I write a driver for this shit? All of this feels like I didn't have to do any of it. I did not have to deal with any of this when I wrote a driver for it. I'm a little surprised that I have to deal with all of this now. I don't... Even when I looked at code of people who use UART for input, they didn't have to deal with all this stuff. So it's a little bit suspicious that I feel like I have to deal with all this stuff. I feel like it shouldn't be that complicated. Alright, I'm having a hard time concentrating now, hold on. Back to, no wait, not back to this. Back to... Back to this. Alright, do we have any information on what these registers are even? Like... To be fair, the reason I didn't have to deal with any of that is that plenty of people have written code like this, so there's plenty of references without needing to look at too many manuals and whatnot. Once you look at them, those things are impossible to read. Okay, here. Get C. Okay, so this one's for the Raspberry Pi. So at the very least it's for ARM. Okay, so you read the same register, which again has been impossible to find any information on what it means. But this time, instead of looking at bit 5, you look at bit 4. So I guess bit 5 tells me I'm ready to send new data. Bit 4 is I've received new data. So, no. It's while, not while not. So... I'm not ready to receive new data? I don't know. Anyway, that value has to be 0. So I have to read this value and it has to be 0. And then I just do an MMIO read from the DR. The Dominican Republic. Because again, we don't really know what DR stands for. Data register, I'm assuming. And the FR, it's... Are you good? Let's... Hold on. Alright. Make the fan spin, see if he doesn't die from heat stroke. What do I do? I'm making an operating system right now. I'm trying to make it headless mode, so having to decipher some UART stuff to get input in another way that isn't USB. Although come to just dying randomly. Come to think of it, I will also have to deal with USB. I mean, I already have a USB driver, so it's not going to be a problem. If anything, what I'm doing right now is not going to be that useful. But... yeah, what I'm doing right now is kind of redundant. I don't really need it at all. The real reason I'm not receiving input when I'm in headless mode is that I never set up the focus for the program. So that one's on me. But still, I think that data transmission through UART is particularly useful. Yo, Ice Storm, hi. It's been a while. How you been? Um, interrupts for UART are normally to get non-blocking in the background used for it. Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want. That's why I tried to use all interrupts between 0 and 30. Then again, I don't know if it uses anything other than 30, technically. Okay, so technically I have reception of data enabled, and I should be sending data by talking to it through here, if I'm not mistaken. But can I do 128, 128? Can I do this to enable all 128 interrupts, which I think is the maximum you can have? See, because actually I do have input when I'm in headless mode. Technically right now, I can input. It just doesn't work here because the program is not focused. So it's not even a necessity to do this UART stuff. But again, I want to be able to input through here, so I don't talk to the window at all in QEMU. I'm mostly doing this for QEMU. Lots of stress at work, that sucks. Pretty common nowadays, sadly. Where was I? Yeah, testing this thing. Oh, there we have it. Wait. I'm no longer receiving interrupts, but I'm pretty sure because I'm not masking it again. Or actually, that might be a crash. Is it a crash? No. I just print an error. That's funny. I receive an interrupt that I don't expect. I just say like, whoops. And then I'm never... no, I am masking it again. But I guess because I haven't read data... Yeah, that's the issue. Okay. That's what's happening. Okay, so the interrupt that we wanted is 33. Again, instead of deciphering this shit, it was enough to just literally brute force it. Piss me off. This is incomprehensible slop to me. Alright, so let's begin with that. Interrupts. This one is marked as 21 hexadecimal, which is 33 non-hexadecimal, which is, by the way, definitely, if I had thought about it for 2 seconds, I would have known that I didn't need to Google what 33 is in hexadecimal. But yeah. If I'm reading this correctly, which I'm probably not, interrupt 33, which we just realized goes to UART, is mapped as VertIO, MMIO, this thing, this thing, this thing, which is not this thing, which claims to have interrupt 1, or again, I don't know what the fuck this is supposed to mean. I genuinely don't know. See, this here is the address of UART. There it is. That's the address that the UART begins at. This is the size of the range of that address, right? So it begins here, goes to this size. Not sure what a 0 and 0 is supposed to mean. Back in the day, I used to know what they meant. I don't anymore. But anyway, UART operates over this range, starting here with this size. And so far, this is consistent. How am I supposed to interpret this as interrupt 33? Which is the one that UART is using. To me, that looks wrong, but whatever, man. Whatever. Anywho. We're going to introduce a new function to the UART. Now, at least we can make some progress, because that was kind of bullshit. I'm glad I went back and did that again. The brute forcing, like enabling all the interrupts and seeing which one responds. Because I did it 0 through 30, and it was 33. If I hadn't done it again, I would have missed that, and we would still be figuring out the number 33 somehow. When I wrote this, only God and I knew what it meant. Now only God knows. See, when I first wrote it, actually, the thing is, UART is a very common thing. Pretty much every device that I know of has UART. Whether they expose it or not, whether it's enabled or not, might differ. I think even Macs have UART. No, I'm not looking for the correct adapter. No, no, I mean the board. I seem to recall a video of someone looking at the Neo, and it was they were using, they were showing UART. Technically, no, it doesn't make sense that every PCB would have UART, but doesn't matter. Point is, UART is still used by a lot of boards, so there's gonna be a lot of stuff like this, which is something similar to where I got my original code for UART from, this thing here. And when I wrote it, it was like this. Completely incomprehensible garbage, but it worked, whatever. Eventually I had to adapt it to the Raspberry Pi 5. That required me to make some changes that made it useful for me to understand what the code did. So I took the time to, again, write it like we saw, and label everything. Yes, return a U8. Although, what I really need is a UART poll, or a UART read in. Because, yeah, this is the function that's going to be called by the interrupt. The interrupt doesn't actually handle the value that is written. We handle the value that is written. And if I want, eventually, I can make my UART code a little bit more complex. Again, I don't really work with, all the boards that I work with have networking. So any update system, networking, or just some way of getting stuff installed on them. So I don't need UART to transmit proper data. But I could add it if I want. Just give it a mode. Instead of transmitting text, you transmit data. Because it is just a serial port. It's not just meant to transmit text. Any kind of serial communication, like cornflakes, Cocoa Pops. Is it called that? Cocoa Pops? Cocoa Puffs? Whatever it's called. I decomposed an LED light bulb and there are transmission and receive pins. Really? In the light bulb? You know, I don't know why when you said LED, I thought one of the really, really small ones, so I got a little scared as to, like, what do you mean? Hold on. I thought you meant, like, one of these. I just dropped the other one on the ground, for fuck's sake. Oh, it's for E14 socket. Okay, I was looking at it from here, and I thought you wrote pound 14. I was like, that's an expensive light bulb. I think. How much is a light bulb? How much can a banana be? $10? How much is a light bulb? 149 at IKEA. Okay, but what about in pounds? This is a lightbulbshop.co.uk. How hard is it to tell me a price for a light bulb? Just let me. Oh my god. 240. Okay, so it's £2.40. So yes, a 14-pound light bulb would be expensive. But you said an E14 socket, which is one of these. So alright, you can definitely fit a more complex PCB on that. Yeah, UART can be used for like embedded devices. It's pretty useful. For basic devices like those. But here we're talking about an entire operating system with graphics, with networking, with SD card readers. I definitely don't need UART to do data transmission. And there are better ways of doing data transmission. Although I do transmit, text data, which is what UART is useful for in my case. Just would I want to allow it to do more stuff than that? I don't know. Technically, I could make my driver a little bit more complex and add that functionality. I just don't want to. Alright. And the beautiful thing is, even though the addresses for the UART change, the behavior is always the same. So what we write here is always going to be the same. Pretty much similar to this, except we look at bit 4, and we read this, and we return a U8 cast of this. Run. Alright. So that should be the data transmission, the data read. But what is actually going to be called by the interrupt is going to be let's say a print. That's how you print in Britain. Let's not do prints in the printer. Let's not do prints in the printer. Yeah. Bad idea. Bad idea to do the prints in the printer. We should just call this. This is going to give us a character that has been written. And if the character is alphanumeric, then we are actually just going to transmit it right out. By the way, I'm gonna need to clean up some of the shit here. These raw functions is because I used to have to take extra care of when to enable and disable interrupts while printing. That's no longer really an issue, so kind of don't care too much for them anymore. But yeah. I'm not sure what bit 4 was, but it's not like while there is data do nothing, afterwards reads data. I'm copying the logic as I saw it here. They read from the from this value and bit 4 of it. It is weird. I would expect it to be the opposite. Maybe this code is wrong, but it is the reference that I have, and I cannot be bothered to read this shit, or even worse, this shit. Actually, no, this is better. At least it's a lot less information. It's just a lot more technical. I guess we'll try it, and if it fails, then invert it. Oh, isalnum is a libc function. Is_alnum is my function for it. All right, so this is going to read the input, and if it is an alphanumeric input, output it right back to us so we can read it. Bit 4 is set when there is no data? I have no idea, to be honest. I'm very much just winging it here. Alright. Now, the thing is, who defines... Whoa. Who defines what our interrupt is going to be? That should be defined, perhaps, by you. Then extern U32. While bit 4 is high, FIFO is empty. Wait, alright, that makes sense. UART IRQ. And the UART IRQ is going to be set to Expedition 33. That's how you guarantee a Game of the Year nomination for your operating system. Alright. So now I can properly enable it. Or actually, I can enable it externally, because if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the responsibility for doing that, interesting, is not external. Alright, I'll just enable it here then. If you are the IRQ, then you're going to enable the IRQ for the UART IRQ. Not that I ever cared about priority. Are priorities even important? I don't know. And CPU target 0. Alright, that's perfect. It should be enabled now. And then we can do a new if IRQ is equal to UART IRQ. We're going to handle that possibility. Otherwise, we're going to go back to our very handy received unknown interrupt that actually saved us from a lot of looking at documentation. Alright, either way you have to do this, and this to restore the state of the program. Also you have to do UART read in, which is going to handle our input. Or not. Because I never defined the value. Might as well modernize the code a little bit. Okay, I know that it's from UART because the space is not working because it's not alphanumeric. And the condition that I set is if it's alphanumeric, then print it back. If I get rid of that condition entirely, there we have it. Alright. Alright. UART get byte is blocking? It's not really endless though, is it? Interesting. Can I now recover from that? No, system's doing fine. Um, I think the interrupt is only for when I receive data, not when I send data. So even though I'm receiving data and immediately sending it back out, that doesn't generate a new interrupt, so we're fine. So it looks like everything works, and the correct thing to do here is that we'll want to fake input if we're in headless mode. This is the part that's going to be kind of interesting to do. I'll design this part after the ad break. I'll be back in 3 minutes. Okay, I'm back. But we've lost one along the way, so oops. Hold on. There you go. Alright. I have to say, hated these when they came out. Can't live without them. I go to a place that doesn't use them. Fucking sucks. Why do I have a cap in my hand right now? Ridiculous. Oh, he's very slowly making his way here. Come on. Hello. Lisiado. Alright, he's back. Okay. Okay, so we're getting UART input. Technically, I didn't need to do any setup on UART because I was already configured for it. Even if I did, the setup is literally this, just working with a single bit. And yeah, I'm reading data from a register, and I should figure out what to do with that data. Now, here's the thing. We want UART to work as input when we don't have a USB input, which requires sending it to the input module. Alright, so the input module is here. Input dispatch. We have a register event. No. What is happening to the syntax highlighting here? I did not notice this function because it's white. But this is what I want to emulate. Instead of a key press coming from USB, we're going to register a serial input, which is going to come in the form of a byte. A byte. Alright, and it is going to be a little bit weird because I kind of have to simulate a key press and key release event, unless I'm not sure. Like, I can technically hold down a key. Hold on, let me try. Somehow this compiles. All right. Yeah. I can hold down a key. I can switch between keys. Yeah, so the initial part of the logic of this is going to be somewhat easy to do, right? Which is that we have a U8 last serial byte. Just keep track of the last byte that we received. Eventually, we'll update it to the value of this one. But if these two are not the same, then we are going to want to say, hey, the input that we received before, key up, and this new input, key down. So we're going to want to send those two events. So far, so good, right? So if I'm holding down H and then I switch to E, I'll send a key up event for H and a key down event for E. Simple. However, what happens when I just stop sending input? Like I'm holding down H and then instead of pressing another key, I just stop pressing keys. It kind of does not handle that properly. There should be some sort of timeout to be like, hey, this is when I received the last input. So clearly, I haven't received the same input again. That's not great. And yes, what about the two L's in hello? That's a good question. And just don't say hello. Say hi. Um, Let me see. I should be able to print. That. If I include console KIO, which funnily enough is still gonna print occasionally, and that might actually mess up things to a certain extent. Also return true. Oh my god. Can you even write that much code without using AI? This is how we've been writing code for decades. There's no way we have forgotten that in 3 years, surely. Surely. That's not what's happening. Yeah. Anyway. I'm going to include input dispatch, and the input dispatch has a register serial input, where we just pass it the data that we just received. Do I always use Linux? No, luckily I also use Mac. The superior operating system in pretty much every way. I'm blanking on what I'm supposed to be looking at. Hold on. That is like 100 millisecond between an L and another L. Whereas if I do this, much smaller delay. Alright, so something similar to what I did in USB, which I believe was called debouncing. If I'm not mistaken, this was called debouncing, where essentially if an input was received within a certain amount of time identical to the previous one, then it's considered to be the same as the previous one. Something like that's a very simplified way of putting it. Yeah, we're working with time here. Just want to see where we're working with time. Here it is. Okay, I feel like this code was cleaned up a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit different now, but essentially, debouncing may not be the right word for it, but the thing that's happening is that when we receive input, for example, when I type the word hello, which has two double L's, that's 4 L's, not 2 L's, and it has 2 L's, then the difference here is like 100 milliseconds between one and the other. To be fair, I was typing a little bit slow, could have done it a little bit better, but this is, after that, all of this is me holding down the same key. And the difference here is a lot smaller, something like 50 milliseconds. And so that's kind of how we know the difference between a key being pressed again and a key being new. But we're going to want to make this a little bit more complex then. Hexagon types? What is hexagon types? Clang, you're losing it. Clang, please. Want to prevent what happens normally in every terminal when you hold a key down? What does happen in every terminal when you hold a key down? That's just normal behavior, isn't it? Essentially, I just want to know a difference between holding a key down and pressing the same key twice. The difference there is, I do remember it being about 50 milliseconds when you... Well, that's really just the baud rate, isn't it? Process serial input, alright, with a U8 byte. Alright, so this function could very much be a part of the normal UART driver, but that's a module. That's like actual hardware, whereas this is another class that's supposed to... I keep calling them classes, they're really just files. It's just supposed to help work with this. True, it's not the same as the USB keyboard input thing. That was the keys were being read twice sometimes. Kind of the opposite error in a way. Console, serial, and then serial input. Alright, that way we can send the input there. This is fine, this part is fine. Now all the work we need to do is here. Alright, but the thing is, I can just check. When was the last key pressed? To know if it's a repeat key or to know if it's just the same key. That's fine. I mean, if it's a repeat key or if it's the same key being pressed twice, like held down or pressed twice, essentially. I kind of have the logic down for how to do that. There is still the problem of when the last key is unpressed. When we stop receiving input from the UART, that becomes a problem. At some point, we're going to have to time out on receiving new data and send a final key unpressed event. That is what needs to be done. It's gonna be a little bit more complex. Last serial byte. Alright, so the last serial byte. And eventually we'll have to be updated with this one, so we'll do that. Then we'll also keep track of when the last received. And alright, here's what we're gonna do. If the last serial byte is different than the byte, then definitely we've received some new data, no matter what. In which case, if we have a last serial byte, then we want to, and this is where we talk to the input dispatch, want to talk to it and tell it to register an event And that event is going to be a key release for the key. You have to do it backwards now. See, the input dispatch transforms a key into a letter. Here, we're doing letter to key. It's different. It's the opposite. And this is going to be a pain to localize, by the way, all of this. But... oh, well, hold on. Not entirely sure. Yeah. The key that we received, 6C, even though I accidentally searched for 6D, turns out is supposed to be the letter L, but really is keyboard F17. The true auto-repeat we used today, where a single key handles the delay and rapid firing all by itself, was officially patented in August 1978. Interesting. They handled that all by themselves? Okay. I need an opposite. I need an opposite to this, don't I? Is there no better way for me to do this? Not really. I think it's better if I just make an opposite to this. So hold on. You can do this? I don't know what I'm doing right now, but this is doing exactly what I wanted to do. And I'm sure someone could have told me that, you know, AI could have handled this for you, but the fuck needs AI? Although, it did glitch because, yeah, it also put a cursor there that it shouldn't have. There we have it. Although, you did not like this one. It's a bit of a special character. And this one, which is also a bit of a special character. And this one, which is... oh. Supposed to be like that. And this one, supposed to be like that. Why is this one there twice? That's not what I want. Okay. Alright. So now... how was this arranged before? It's starting to come out really weird. Formatting here is getting a little bit messed up. I'll have to fix that. But anyway, I use AI to automate boring tasks, and I raise you multiple cursors will take care of that for you. There you have it. Yeah, I totally messed this one up. I see how it was done. I understand now what I did wrong. Okay. Alright, so I did that in a C file. But really I need it here. And you're okay returning a char. That's fine. Because it has a maximum value of 256. Alright. Char to hid byte. Boom. Alright. Last received is bigger. No. The current time. Alright, here's the thing. Put that here. Alright, so here we handle the case in which we switch to a new key. Here we handle the case in which we are using the same key, but we pressed it long enough after the other one. I'm going to say 50 milliseconds for now. That it technically counts as a new key. In that case, we're going to press a release of the... Oh, that was wrong. By the way, here. Here it's fine. Here it should have been last serial byte. Okay, so we're going to release that key. And then, of course, we're going to press the current key. And we're going to set the last byte to that and last received to the current time. Cool. So that's going to take care of almost everything. Where's this timer now msec coming from? That's... Oh, and timer is in exceptions. Okay. All right. Okay, so this handles, again, most of the cases, I believe. But the problem is when I fully release a key, without pressing any other key afterwards, the system does not detect that because we don't really receive an event for that. So we'll have to do something about that externally, and I'm not sure exactly what, but I guess we will see. Either way, though, I should be able to type here. Or not. That did not seem to work. So I am calling it, right? I am calling it. I'm sure I'm calling it. Sure, I'm calling that function. But just in case, I'm gonna check. Yes. But you're not receiving the input. Although... Right, so this should be sending the event as far as I can tell. What I'm not sure about is the character to HID being sent, being processed correctly? Is that part okay? HID 12? Yeah. 11 and 12. That's H and I. That is correct as far as I can tell. I'm telling it that the key press, key release. Alright, just in case. Is there anything else that needs to be done when you register an event? Not really. That's all you need to do. It is receiving pressed without release, yes. Because... Well, first off, I only did this pressed here. But more so, it's just not reading the input here anywhere. That's the part that's a little bit surprising. Now, maybe the login screen I understand, but the terminal definitely should be receiving it. The terminal should be seeing the key being pressed. Because there is no early return in this function as far as I can tell. There's only this one. But that's in case we don't have a focused process. I don't think that's going to be the case. We should have a focused process. We do receive input through the same exact system. So we should be fine. One thing I do have to ask myself is it possible to think with this heat? Holy fuck. I shouldn't be losing focus now. I don't think that's the problem. See, the thing is the USB is still doing key presses. Are those important? Are you using those in any way? What happens if I just like ignore them? All of a sudden it stops working too, so I feel like it has to do with that more than with anything. Alright, so we're just gonna register a key press as well, I guess. So I'm going to create some helpers, emulate key. So, okay, if press, we're going to do key press. Otherwise, we're going to do key release. If press, we're going to do HID. Otherwise, we're going to do 0. And we're also going to register key press. Which has just one key. Pretty much that. Alright, so you become emulate key. This is your key. And false for press, so release. Then same thing for you for the next one. But just using the byte, not the last 0 byte. And then true on the press. Alright, let's see if that fixes anything. We're sending it both ways. Yes, that worked. Although enter doesn't work. But I feel like that's just a translation error because I still got the interrupt for it. 13. What is character 13 in ASCII supposed to be? Oh, R, okay. So just adding that option as well. Oh, because I'm only receiving one. I'm not receiving the R and the N. I'm only receiving one. Alright. Yeah, depends on the terminal, I guess. And there we have it. User process terminal, so that means we're now in the terminal, and bada bing, bada boom, we've made it to the terminal using UART only. We're no longer using the normal input. Yeah, carriage return was the answer to that. What is up, my guy? Okay, still doesn't receive input. But again, it also doesn't receive input from here. That is a terminal issue. That is a skill issue on the terminal's part. Let's fix that real quick. I think it can be fixed. I thought I fixed it yesterday. Apparently not. You don't receive input at all. It's in headless mode entirely, so... because we're in headless mode entirely, we don't ever call the register function to get input, do we? Do we, terminal? Do you ever do that? I don't think you do that. I think you're failing to do that, my dude. I'm not entirely sure. Alright, transfer focus. Yeah. The window ID is missing. Because in execute, we expect there to be a window. So if there's no window ID, we're not in a window, something weird happened, according to this logic. Therefore, we don't give this process input. But now we actually allow processes without windows, so still no. As far as I can tell, the mode for this should be transfer focus, which means we should be calling set focus, and the process is stopped if it doesn't have an ID, it doesn't have a program counter, it doesn't have a stack pointer, or its stack pointer is invalid, and its status registers are invalid, then we return. As far as I can tell, we should be setting the focus of this process correctly. But about window focus, well, this shouldn't be changing anything necessarily, but system config dot use windows. Don't think that's going to change anything, but okay. And here I'm going to have to include console KIO, and I'm going to have to include theme.h, which is slowly becoming like system preferences, not theme, but whatever. Alright, new focus. I can still work from here, it's totally fine. New focus, new focus. That's two focuses. That's two foci. That's two foci. I don't think that's correct. So right now it's focused on 4, which is the login process. That is correct. Now it's focused twice on 5. But input should be going to process 5. Okay, so maybe it's the terminal that's not processing it correctly. Maybe it's just an issue on the terminal itself. Read event comes from handle input. Handle input comes from update. If no command running, you do an update. You put the terminal in a headless mode and then you do an update. That's it. So the process is being given input. Looks that way. It's trying to read input. That's very much trying to read input. But it doesn't ever receive input from any source. No, it does. Okay, so the issue is something else. It is definitely some different kind of issue. Okay, not gonna lie, terminal, not on the best terms with you right now. I need a break. It's not you, it's me. It's not me, it's you. So, don't wanna work? Don't fucking work. I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna go back to working on UART. Okay, so UART is working. But again, I still have the issue that I mentioned. After I'm done with UART, I am no longer pressing keys. What happens then? Technically, so far, maybe I can leave it as a to-do, because it genuinely isn't an issue in most of the ways that the system handles input. Most of the way that the applications that I've written and the built-in applications for the system, which I've also written, spoiler alert, handle input, they don't really care about a key release. They care about a key press. So yes, half of the events are ignored, but it does mean that I kind of don't run into this problem where the last key release is never sent. Or, for that matter, when a key release is sent late. What we really should do is have a reset serial input. Reset serial input is going to emulate releasing the last key, and then simply reset everything back to 0. And this should run if it's been too long since we've received a key. Say 1 second, for example. I don't know. I could use a timer for it. I could use a process that simply runs this for me. I just don't necessarily feel the need to do this. Is there anything better that I can do? Unfortunately, the system doesn't really have a way to set a timer, a one-shot timer, right now. For, hey, have this happen in a certain amount of time without associating a process with it, without doing this kind of stuff. Should I build a system like that? I do have a way of doing timer stuff. I do have a way of handling this kind of thing. It's just associated with processes all the time. Should I need a process for it? No. So it should be a lot simpler. Alright, but the thing is, right now this function is not necessary. There's nowhere to call this function from. So we have the function written, but we don't have anywhere to call it from. It should happen a few milliseconds after the last key was pressed. So ideally, whenever a key is pressed, we just start a little countdown for, again, say 100 milliseconds, 1 second, whatever. When another key is pressed, the countdown resets. And if the countdown never gets hit, if the countdown actually is allowed to expire, then this function gets called. It's like a little dead man switch for these serial keys. Poetic. But I don't have a way of building something like that right now. I don't really need it, so I might just leave it as a to-do. Doesn't serial only send characters though? No press release. That's exactly the problem, yes. It only sends me characters. So already, in order to make it work with the rest of my input system, I need to translate the character that it sends me to the key that was pressed, which is interesting. But again, just a little bit of multi-cursor magic took care of that for me. So that wasn't a problem. The thing is, yes, I technically only sends characters. Now receiving a character implies a key was pressed, but it doesn't ever tell me when the key was released. Now I do say, if the same character is received less than 50 milliseconds in between, then I can assume that the key is still pressed. If I receive the same key, but more than 50 milliseconds, then I can assume the person pressed the key twice. But I don't know if they're holding down the key or not. Which is why the last missing piece of the puzzle is, if a certain amount of time passes with no key being pressed, we should send a final key released event, because we're simulating the key release and key press events. We don't really get that information, we're simulating it. Well, we're emulating it. Since we don't have an elegant way to just set a timer that we can also reset before it fires, I would kind of, and we don't really need this situation because, again, the way that I've designed most of my software, it doesn't use key releases for anything. Games do, to be fair, but maybe don't play games on serial input. just saying, maybe don't play games on serial input. That's always a possibility. You don't do that. But yeah, because there is currently no way to simulate a key release, and I don't really need it, besides for games again, which you shouldn't be playing over serial, then we're okay with just skipping this part for the time being. I'm okay with just being like, hey, you know what, forget it, forget about it. Right now, we're good. Could I send a press and release at once? No. That wouldn't be necessarily correct. I could. Yeah, let me try. What the hell? Worth a shot. Might genuinely be that easy. Again, it's not like I can even test whether this is causing issues or not. Like, everything works fine here. Let me try with it doesn't do key repeat this way, though. It doesn't do that. I would like it to imitate as complete of a keyboard as possible. Wait, does this one just not do that? Damn it! Terminal? Could you please work? Alright, hold on. If I'm not mistaken, again, the issue that I'm having with the terminal is only when it's in headless mode. So I should be able to take it out of headless mode, which isn't even headless in the first place, so we're good. If I take it out of headless mode but still don't use Windows, I'll still get a terminal. But alright. That worked. Let me just this works mostly fine. And honestly, it's fine. Let me see if it works like this as well. Honestly, we're good. It's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Fuck it. Fuck it. I don't care. We're good. Fuck it. Boom. Well, that simplifies the code a lot. Gets rid of that issue. Everything works. We're good. Now, what is it about the goddamn terminal and goddamn headless mode that makes it I know what it is. The terminal itself is in headless mode. Because the terminal itself is in headless mode, it does not update its screen. It's working fine. It just doesn't update its screen. That's it. That's the entire issue. Yo, I actually almost canceled this stream today because I was so tired. Vibe coding and Rust really takes it out of you. What can I say? But here I am. This is honestly not even top 10 stupid mistakes I've made around here, so whatever. Anywho. Alright, terminal. I'm gonna need to do something about you. Something about you. Makes me hate C++. Like a dangerous woman should. Put char with a char C. Out of line definition for your mom. How is this out of line definition? How is this an out of line definition? Oh my fucking god. Can I not override? Is it just I'm missing the override keyword? So I am trying to override that. Oh, is it just because I'm not declaring it here? Either way, this language is fucking stupid. Yeah. Fuck this language, I swear to god. Here's the thing about being in headless mode. If we are in headless mode, then we're going to need to actually print every character we receive to serial, because that is how we take care of this. Now, can I do this? Because this is the default implementation. I'm pretty sure this will work. I can call the parent function from here if we're not in headless mode. If we are in headless mode, on the other hand, I am not going to call that function, and I am instead going to do I really need to do it like this? I already have an entire buffer holding what's currently on the terminal. Yeah, I kind of do need to do it like this. Some kind of way to render the terminal on a different computer and send text to the OS in headless and receive data. Yes, but the terminal will need to change a lot to do that. Could benefit from. But marketing's getting out of hand. Cannot be bothered with any of that. But yes. The thing is, I want to be able to use the systems terminal through this terminal, right? Through this terminal. I don't know why I'm pointing at it with my hand when you cannot see that. Look, I can do a put. This is incredibly inefficient code, but just to test my theory and test that everything is set up correctly. If we're in headless mode, all the output from the terminal That did not work. I'm going to need to consider maybe a little bit more on the compatibility because, for that matter, yes, I decided my terminal, even if it's gonna do rendering like this and all that, it's always gonna do it on a text-based nature. So because of that, it would probably be better if I can output its contents. So yeah, don't need this. The question is, why did it never get called? Because this should have called it. Should have called this. I just want to know that this function is being called. I'm not sure that this function is being called. Are you being called? I don't think this function is being called. Not always. There's no way put string. There's no way. C++ really is the worst fucking plague. Where is that guy? I need that guy.
C++ is absolutely atrocious.
I'm pretty sure. Sometimes I don't call put char, I call put string, which internally, if you look at its implementation in the console, which is the parent class of this thing, put string calls put slice, okay, which internally calls put char. But this motherfucker, when I call put string, goes through here, which immediately calls this function, which immediately calls this function from the console, not the terminal. I think. There's no way C++ is this stupid, right? There's no way. Right? Right? Yeah, right? There's no way. That cannot be the problem. That cannot be the problem. Certainly not. Surely it's something else. You fuckhead. That really is the problem. No, maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. I forgot I'm technically not in headless mode. Okay. Piece of shit language, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt one more time. That is the issue. That is the issue. Piece of shit language, you are the fucking worst. We're gonna sit here and watch this entire video now.
C++
Not really.
is absolutely atrocious. First of all, there's like 20 different ways to initialize a variable. And there's so many rules and edge cases around initialization that somebody wrote a 300-page textbook solely on this one topic.
Has actually come to bite me in the ass in the past on stream. FYI. Now, Let me sum up what just happened here. Because this is fucking stupid. This language is written... I swear to God. It's so stupid. It's so fucking stupid. I am pissed off. I am genuinely angry right now. We have a parent class called console. We have a child class called terminal. Alright, the terminal's smaller because it's a child class, right? It's a child. Even though it's bigger because it technically has more functionality because it's inheriting. Right? Now, the console has a function called put string, and it has a function called put char. We're going to, for the sake of simplicity here, ignore the fact that put string technically calls put slice. Ignore that. We don't care about that part. Point is, put string calls put char. Right? But now, in my terminal, I need some special functionalities for put char. So I tell it, hey, you know what? You're gonna override put char. All right, you're gonna do this one yourself, and you're going to handle a special case. If you're in headless mode, you're going to do this thing. Otherwise, you're going to call this. All right, your parent class implementation of it. Great, right? No problem. Cool. Remember how put string internally calls put char? Well, the terminal calls put string, which calls put char of the console, not of the child. So this logic here that we care about never gets handled. Let's ignore the fact that it calls this one back because that kind of complicates things. If the terminal calls put char, it calls this put char. However, if the terminal calls put string, which internally calls put char, it calls this put char. What is the point of inheritance in your language if it does this bullshit? This absolute insanity you got going on. What the hell? I just remembered. My dad had a book on IBM assembly. Look how old this thing is. It's in Italian too. Look how old and yellow it is. Just kind of remembered I had that there. And I needed something to distract myself from this bullshit language. It may make sense with how C++ classes work. Obviously the compiler works like that. But why the fuck does it work like that? This is not how inheritance works on any sane language that does inheritance correctly. And by the way, a while ago, I heard someone say something that you don't hear a lot in the iOS world. This was someone that was new to the iOS world saying Objective-C is good. You don't hear that a lot. But specifically what he was saying is that Objective-C is the real C with classes. Because this kind of behavior is handled properly in Objective-C. You can call the superclass, but by default, when you override a function, the version that gets used is the overwritten version. That way you can override the function. It seems logical to do things this way, not this shit. Where I have two versions of the same function, and depending on where I'm calling it from, I get one or the other version. Absolute insanity from this language. Does it happen if I set put char as virtual? I was asking myself that question while I was ranting, so that's a good question to ask. You've got a point. Alright. Still stupid that you have to do that, but yeah, you're not wrong. I was thinking about that for sure. So let's find out. Put char is now virtual. Virtual goes to the beginning. Virtual. That's better. That's better. All right. Man, fuck right off with your language. Oh no, it's not marked over. It's not marked override. You're not overriding the fuck. Go fuck yourself. Anyway. Yeah, apparently I'm gonna be reading about IBM assembler. That's how old this book is. Actually, when is this book from? Good inheritance is just not a thing. That's fair. This is a new edition. 1971. Goddamn. I was 3 years old back then. No, the fuck I wasn't. This is still not correct, by the way. This is still not correct. Remember how it used to say something about Sheldon here? The name of the shell? The output from the shell is not being received. Now, why is that relevant? Because the output from the shell comes from here, here, here. It comes from a C handler. A chandler. Really. So it's not correct. Man, this language fucking sucks. Holy shit. That's fully gone now. There's HAL, high level assembler. C killer. I'm kind of interested. I would love to see an example of what it looks like. Yeah, I'm not interested. C is high level assembler for me. OBJ ASM. Being able to tell the compiler a function is a class in a flash can't flag. Ugh. In a class can't be overwritten is good for library developers. Yes. Yes. Or even telling it that it can only be overwritten in tests, for example, is super useful. That is true. But that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is something broke. I don't even know what the fuck it is. At this point. But I guess we're slightly better than we were, so that's good. Anyway, thanks, Erica. But I want to look at what this language looks. Why am I not seeing code? I like a visual programming language as much as the next guy. Probably more than the next guy, because I can tolerate them to a certain extent. What the fuck is this though? Yeah, actually, visual programming languages don't tend to get a whole lot of love. Okay. I'm just gonna close that. I was just gonna move on. Anywho. Yeah, the issue here is just entirely visual. Remake Scratch but from low level and then build an OS in it. Somebody's already done that. Oh, Sheldon's back. Oh, okay, it's fixed. I guess we were printing and printing and printing and printing and printing. Didn't like that, which makes sense. All right. And now, if I do put you in headless mode properly, because we're technically not in headless mode, I believe. Chop off their head and see what happens. It crashes. Very good. Okay, that's better because I saw the hello. So it did print, which means it is processing stuff. It just isn't printing everything it should be printing to the screen, to the console. So that's a little weird. Ah, wait, okay. Yeah, I kind of figured this could be a problem. Um, it's the fact that I'm calling put. Put is doing a few things, including writing the character or the string to the current shell, which puts it on the terminal, which prints it, which puts it on here, which goes here, which goes here, which goes here. So that is kind of the issue that we're having. All right. Where is the syscall for this though? Memset, string format, log buffer. Just right. Oh, you're never printing. Okay. So long story short, the system's not really prepared for this. I can do a print L. I can do this. But it's gonna put everything on a new line. Or not. Yeah. There it is. Um... It's not even about checking if it's headless input. It's more so just about doing this properly. How do I put this? I kind of want to decide, right? Do I want to make a syscall that goes directly to UART? Like a serial transmit syscall? Any glaring issues with that I'm not considering? Can't think of any, to be completely honest. So we have print, which is syscall 3. Here's the interesting thing, malloc. You're already deprecated, actually. You're fully deprecated. You're supposed to be deprecated in March. You were deprecated in June, I believe. But you're deprecated, so get the fuck out of here. Define serial transcode as 4. Yeah, malloc's already gone from here. Alright. Then obviously you're going to complain about malloc and free because you no longer have those. Don't worry, I will replace them with syscall serial transmit. And those two syscalls, you and this is page free. You may go to be replaced with this one, a process T context, which really takes as input a very simple U8 byte as so maybe you want to check that the process at least has output so that they don't all spam, probably. Also, I don't know, I feel weird transmitting data over UART like that from a userland application. I feel weird doing it. But anyway, there it is. If byte, then we just do UR raw put C byte. Now return 0 because it needs to have a return type. Alright. So you can now use that terminal. Serial transmit just a character. You don't need a buffer anymore. That kind of worked. Kind of didn't. Well, let's begin with this. We're in headless mode. And we're seeing, once again, this bullshit. This and this should not be getting called at all. They should not be here because putchar never, ever, ever actually draws anything to the screen. See, this is where it's drawing to the screen, it's drawing new lines, it's flushing, it's drawing characters, rendering glyphs. You shouldn't do any of that stuff. C++ really is the shittiest fucking language. I can't believe how shitty it is. Oh my god, I can smell it from here. There's just no way. It's this useless. These should not appear at all. Why are they appearing at all? Like, just to be clear, I'm telling you to call the terminal version of this function. I'm telling you to call the terminal version of this function, not any other. The terminal version of this function. I'm annoyed as hell. This would be nice if GDB was actually like a functional program that did stuff. Because it's really hard for me to print stuff right now. I would love to be able to just be like, click. But unfortunately, they haven't been able to make GDB work yet. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work. Like at all. So I gotta try. Terminal brain damage, yep. Put char. That already gives me the answer. That already gave me the answer. Default term put char, right? This is a terminal type. Put char. What does it resolve to? To the address of console plus an offset. Parent class. That already tells me what the issue is. This language is just poorly designed. I don't know what else to call it. Let's look at the code real quick. Terminal put char calls on a default terminal type the function put char, which, according to Clang, goes to the overwritten version of the function, but in reality goes to the non-overwritten version of the function. Do we maybe see why this is a problem? At all. Oh no, man. What a shitty language. I'm... No, stop doing that. Still doesn't work. What if I only do the serial transmit? There it is. So is my terminal not in headless mode? Is my terminal not in headless mode? Where does this actually get assigned? There's no way. I know this is C++'s fault. There's no way it's anyone else's fault. But okay. By any chance, is this not the same as the one that I'm actually doing the thing in? This? Is it maybe not the same? Let's find out. It should be. It should be. And for that matter, I should be okay with moving all of these out here. Instead of using the default term, I just use their term version. Then I can assure that they're the same one, but was that not the same pointer? I'm very scared to find out. Because sometimes C++ will initialize an object and copy it, then give you the copy instead of the real object, then give you the middle finger. It'll do stuff like that. So, wouldn't really be surprised if that was the case. Oh, there's one missing. Okay, we're good. Looks like we're good to go. Lord. Lord. That is crazy. This language is ridiculous. I don't know what else I can possibly call it. It is a ridiculous language. Alright, so sadly there is a little bit extra stuff happening in the terminal that makes me want to rewrite it from scratch. Because this is bullshit. This should not happen in a programming language where it's like, oh, you know when you initialize the object? Yeah, and then you took a pointer to that object? Yeah, you thought you were getting a pointer to that object, but really because we returned a copy of the object, your pointer is actually wrong. Yeah. Yeah, we did that, yeah. So, great work on the C++ thing, on the whole thing. I hope it works out for you. So far, you're doing amazing. Please keep going. Why don't you vibe code it, actually? Throw in a little bit of the LLM. Throw some Claude and some tokens at the problem. I'm sure that's gonna fix it. So yeah, just an amazing language they got going on here. Genuinely so annoyed by it. Alright. We're no longer supposed to use 250,000 tokens per month. Now we're supposed to go lower. Keep up. Apparently I took a 1 week break from streaming and the AI bubble started to really burst. Real fucking quick. But somehow I'm still being told that if I don't use it, I'm gonna be left behind. And if I'm against it, that's bad. I am against progress. You know. Yeah, that's really what's happening here. Anyway, can I clean up some of the stuff? Can I truly get rid of it, or is Clang just clanging? There we go. Alright, I actually do need to get rid of this header. So, might as well, while I'm cleaning some stuff up. Okay, and after that, I do have one more question. It's a very important question, to be honest. Alright, so I just need to include memory. The very important question that I have to ask is, how does the terminal work if we use Windows in non-headless mode? I'll come back, Windows. It's been a bit. Seems fine. Seems fine. Looks good to me. Looks good to me. Wait, NVIDIA Microsoft announced that CPUs are now produced for agents instead of humans? They really say that? I know they did the ARM CPU, but did they really say that? Oh. Powers the world's first Windows PC purpose-built for personal agents, featuring 1 petaflop. It's a flop, alright, of AI performance. Industry-leading power efficiency, full-stack NVIDIA AI and graphics technology, and up to 128 gigs of unified memory. Woohoo! And these people are fucking clowns. I swear to God, anyone who supports this shit is either a clown or painted their face for no goddamn reason. Anyway, Claude, honk my nose. Genuinely, why? No, AI is... Here's the thing. I could have told you this years ago. I've been saying it for years, but AI was never gonna go fucking anywhere. Which is why, by the way, recently I've been hearing it a lot that, oh, you know, if you're anti-AI, you're anti-progress. Where's the fucking progress that I'm supposedly opposing? Where is that? Where is that? Where's the fucking progress? What do we have that we wouldn't have without AI? What? Very high prices? Um, what is it? What is it exactly? We have high prices, we have scams, we have the fact that we cannot trust any image we look at. The fact that anytime I read something, hear something, watch something, or anything that isn't a flesh and blood person in front of me, I question whether it's real or not. Where's the progress in that? Where's the fucking progress that I'm supposed to be opposing right now? If you want me to oppose progress, give me some progress to actually oppose. I'm not opposing progress, I'm just opposing slop. How hard is that to understand? Also, it's been doing okay in security. No matter what, this clock is going to be right 2 times a day. Yes, it's doing okay in security, but once you look closely, once you look a little bit close, it's not. Because like, oh, it's been doing amazing in security. You can tell because it it's been submitting patches to Linux and to FFmpeg and to curl and to. But for example, curl have said that Mythos, I think, submitted I don't even know how many patches, of which one was a vulnerability and a very unlikely to happen vulnerability, whereas another one was a bug. The rest were all bullshit. Broken clock. Right twice a day.
NVIDIA made $81.6 billion in revenue last quarter. NVIDIA the decision behind 88 cores, Jensen stated.
The number of CPU cores, the number of CPUs is going to be quite high. And the reason for that is very simple. We created CPUs for humans in the past. And humans, there are only 1 billion of us. There will be billions of agents. And these agents are going to be using the CPUs with very little patience.
Jensen also stated what
There's only 1 billion of us? First time hearing of that. Hi, Peter. There's only 1 billion of us. Whether there's gonna be, I don't know, about 8 billion agents? Is it how many people use computers? These are just percentages, but according to this, 6 billion people use computers. That's computers. I'm assuming it also includes smartphones. Yeah, 6 billion people using the internet. They got 6 billion people using the internet, but apparently only 1 billion people in the world, according to the CEO of NVIDIA, who, by the way, thinks you should be using more tokens. How many tokens have you used today? Me personally, 0. I'm aiming to make that number even lower. Actually, it's not 0. Here's the thing. I had to talk to a chatbot today. Okay, I didn't have to. I was just wasting their compute. For tech support for a computer that needed a battery replacement because the battery goes down very quickly. Now, here's the beautiful thing about this computer. It's a few years old, right? And it has a certain amount of capacity, right? So this is your battery, right? When it was fabricated, it had all of its capacity. So it was able to charge up to here, this entire thing. But as you use it, it degrades, so you get less and less capacity. Apparently, there's a command on Windows, which is, I don't remember, but battery report, something battery report, that gives you a battery report in glorious HTML that opens in Microsoft Edge, of course, regardless of what your default browser is. So I looked at that, and it tells me that the battery capacity is 100%, which is very interesting, because in between the time that it took to generate the report and the time that I'm looking at it now, the battery has gone down by 2%. It's not exactly doing great. Turns out that the battery is being reported, its maximum capacity goes down alongside your actual capacity, thus keeping your actual capacity always at 100% because they go down together. Essentially, instead of your battery being like, oh, you can't use this part anymore, now your battery is degraded in quality, it's like this. So eventually you get to this point and it's like, you still have 100% of the capacity of your battery. Isn't that so amazing? Look at that, 100%. So I started looking into a replacement, and I wanted to look at which battery does it use. And on Amazon, I got some like part number, but I wasn't sure. I wanted to verify, so I went on the battery report. It doesn't tell you what battery it has. As it's very common on Windows, every manufacturer will put a little bit of their own slop programs on your computer, and I was hoping that one of these slop programs could tell me the model of the battery, but it didn't. But it did try to send me to the store to buy another battery. So I tried and the link was broken. It was literally just a click. It's not like I did anything weird. However, in the link, in the time that it took before it took me to the 404 page, it had the battery number on the URL, the model number of the battery on the URL. So I looked that up and I finally got it. But anyway, the store gave me a chatbot, and I was like, you know what? Let me try the chatbot. Let me see if I can ask to confirm. And I asked, and the chatbot did not understand my question. What model battery does my computer have? It didn't understand the question. Eventually, I got it to understand the question, but it was like, but you need to tell me the model of the computer. And I'm like, you've known that since the very beginning, but sure, here it is. And instead of actually giving me an answer, it was just like, did that answer your question? Thumbs up? So yeah, that was great. I did use a few tokens today then. Unfortunately, because I did that. It was very fun to do. Vibe coding in Rust course got a little bit out of hand there. So isn't it just amazing, the current state of the tech industry? We're going all in on a technology that has no future. Hating on anyone that points out that fact. Unable to comprehend how we used to do things literally 3 years ago, which some of us continue to do. While at the same time, we kind of need to start addressing the elephant in the room that this technology is actually super expensive. It produces slop really, really quickly. Guess what? Doing that is actually really, really expensive. So I heard that Uber is actually capping capacity, like token capacity for each developer. Something like you can only use 50,000 tokens. Oh, 1,500 dollars worth of tokens. Um, they replaced useless human support with useless AI support. The difference is human support kinda couldn't really help you because they weren't allowed to, but they could at the very least try to be helpful to a certain extent, so long as they knew what they were actually trying to support. Right? Because when you were working with somebody that literally did not understand the product, yeah, but that wasn't that often. Nowadays, like I genuinely don't understand why did you have this chatbot? The most basic question I ask it, it cannot answer me. And this has been the truth for every single chatbot I have tried ever. That one Minecraft chatbot, um, this chatbot, any other one that I've tried. The fucking Uber support chatbot was insane when I tried to talk to that. I don't use Uber Eats anymore. Because somebody was allowed to just steal my food by just calling my phone, immediately hanging up, and then leaving. And Uber support was unable to do anything about it because they tried contacting me. And I couldn't talk to a human to be like, can you see that the call is like 0 seconds long? So yeah. I didn't lose the money because PayPal. But yeah, they really just straight up tried to scam me with that. Their chatbot was also fucking useless. I still have not spoken to a chatbot that is useful. I still have not found a chatbot that can code for me. Even the people that, if you listen to like people who are actual like programmers who talk about AI, they also don't really see the use in it. The problem is if they have a platform, they take sponsorships from AI companies. So it's convenient to be quiet about it. But for example, when I watch the Primogen, I get fucking whiplash from the twists and turns that the narrative takes in every video, where it's like, I don't really see the point of AI. It really doesn't help me. It really hurts me more than it helps. It really gets in my way more than it helps me. It really feels like a junior developer, but that never improves. Anyway, here's a sponsorship from AI. Anyway, if you don't like AI, you're a Luddite. Bro, my neck hurts. Like, what the fuck? Genuinely, what is that? It's because you get money for that. But yeah, if you listen to the people that don't get money from AI, that don't make money from AI, suspiciously, they don't really see the point of AI. Suspiciously. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. It's a little interesting. That those that see the point of AI are the ones that benefit from it in one way or another. The ones that don't see the point of AI don't benefit from it. Monetarily, that is. They also don't, no one else benefits in any other way besides monetarily. Think you have AI music in the background of a stream? I can't say I watch his streams. I have to say he fills a niche, which is talking about the tech industry and about the tech world from the perspective of someone that's worked at a big company, from the perspective of someone who is an actual engineer, because despite that bullshit, he is competent at creating NeoVim configs, but I think he's also a good programmer. Allegedly. I honestly haven't seen it, but I don't necessarily question that part. So he has insights on the things that he talks about that other people that are more outsiders to the tech industry that aren't really programmers or aren't really insiders to the tech industry cannot give. So yeah, he fills a niche in that sense, but everything else is just not right. Every time I watch one of those videos, every single time it's like, yeah, here's something that's gone horribly wrong thanks to AI. Anyway, here's an AI agent that you can buy from my affiliate link. Thank you for the sponsorship. Anyway, remember to use AI. If you don't use AI, you're not gonna be left behind, but I am gonna judge you. At least he doesn't end his videos with a prayer. So, it's always welcome. It's always nice to not do that. Alright, does everything work or is it like half broken? No, I think it works. It just doesn't print like it's supposed to print. But again, C++ is just a fucking horrifying language. But alright, I'm back in windowed mode now. Everything works fine. Terminal's terminaling. By the way, this thing, like the edges of the windows have been broken since forever. I just don't pay attention to that much. So I haven't fixed it. I can type and it types back to me. Alright. Yeah, so I can make a few improvements to that, but I would say we did what we wanted to do, which was mostly UART input. Simplified it a lot. I had this whole very complex system in mind. Then it was like, why don't you just immediately send a key press and key release event? And what do you know? It works. At least for the way that I use the system, for the way that it's designed. Maybe if you design a slightly different application, or again, a game, because the way that I do the games is different. But like, why are you gaming using the terminal as input? Don't do that. But I'm probably gonna try it at some point. Do I have anything installed? I've been working on the OS for a year at this point. And already has 1 billion devices running it, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I have this game, which crashed. Yeesh. You're not allocating, are you? Because I just removed malloc. So that means anyone that used malloc that hasn't been recompiled, malloc will now be serial output. So that's gonna be great. That's gonna be amazing. Most likely it's gonna output 0 because you're probably mallocing something a little big. But yeah, can I see real quick? Alright, actually, another thing that I worked on during my break is that this Ghost game, yeah, it's super outdated now. Kind of. Sim ECS was the file that crashed. What file is that? Sim ECS here. Yeah, is there any mallocs here that aren't in raylib? Okay, yeah. I'll need to make some more updates to this. One thing that I worked on this game is... this is an old Halloween game that I made. Vendoring all of its dependencies inside of it. Because technically, I've kept working on the game engine. I've kept working on this library. And they... God damn. And they were causing... not causing issues, but I started refactoring code and getting rid of old code, and I would have to keep this project up to date. So instead I just locked it down to one version of the engine and one version of the library. But then I actually decided, you know what, I can just upgrade it. It's fine. So I did upgrade it, but technically I have them vendored inside here as Git submodules. So the project is completely self-contained. But that does mean the changes that I made inside of redlib it says already up to date. It doesn't look already up to date. You just downloaded a bunch of shit. Anyway. Not sure if it'll build. That did not build. Pretty sure that failed. Yeah, anyway, anything that I compiled that was using malloc will need to be recompiled, since now it just internally uses my new allocator. But I technically reused the syscall, so that's gonna be a bit of a pain in the ass. And yeah, gaming on headless is not the right thing to do, but maybe you don't have USB. Maybe you only have serial. Who knows? Who knows why you would want to do this? But if you want to do it, you can do it. Alright. Well, I'll have to update this game at some point, but unfortunately that leaves me with no projects that I can just run and quickly test that are games to see if the input works well on them from UART or not. I guess I'll test this some other time. Alright. Not sure what's happening here. My voice is getting rusty now that I'm vibe coding in Rust. Okay, genuinely, why am I losing my voice in real time? Alright, I'm gonna stop the stream. There is an ad happening, so I'm gonna take 20 more seconds and then I'm gonna stop the stream. But again, I changed my streaming schedule for the weekend, for this week and next week. Going to be streaming at the same time Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. That's 8:30 p.m. Central European Summer Time. Again, because I'm taking a vibe coding in Rust course at the local university. I say local university like I don't live in Madrid where there's like 3. So I'm making it sound like community college. I'm also making it sound like this whole thing is real. It isn't. I'm just busy in the afternoons, so I'm streaming at night. That's it. All right. Apparently losing my voice, so thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.